Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Hockey Report. I hope everyone's having a fine Thursday. Zach, your mic is making it is a little fuzzy at the moment. I don't know if that's just me, but it can sound a little funky wonky for you. But welcome back in. It is a Thursday. We have a massive 12-game slate on our hands. It was so good to be back yesterday. That sounds way better, Zach. Thank you. Actually, I can't hear you. So.
Yeah, I was just really quiet there. Can you hear me?
There we go. Okay, we're back. We're so live. It was so good to be back yesterday. Zach, I'd say we had a pretty good show. Like a lot of the spots that we indicated ended up being really solid. You know, even the chalk of Winnipeg, we weren't like super high on, and they were fine. They were good, not amazing. Rasmus Sandin, like 4% owned goal was nice. Some of the goalies we talked about, Logan Thompson. The one thing that's sucked for me, I don't know if you were watching the game, Zach, but the Jake Gensel missed empty net, and then all of a sudden, they come back on the other end of the ice and score on Vasilevsky. I had Gensel in a Vasilevsky lineup, and that was my best lineup of the night. And it went from losing a goal to a goal against. It was a real tough turnaround. But it is also nice to see the chat is working today. Something was up in the YouTube chat yesterday. We are live. What's up, boys? Nice to see you. How did the Kings lose to a Vegas Knights AHL team? That game was outrageous. I said multiple times in yesterday's show, it had the feel of a 2-1 game. It was 2-1 with 12 minutes left. And then it was like 6-4, 6-5. Unbelievable. Mike Funky, because he threw it when the Ducks won last time. Possible. Yeah. Lost $500 fading the Olympians out. That'll happen to you. All right, Zach. We're not going to waste too much time. How are you doing today? 12 game slate. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's jump into this one, man.
Here we go. We got Brandon Bussey likely to get the start for the Carolina Hurricanes. They're going to face the Tampa Bay Lightning on the second half of a back-to-back. So they're expected to go with Jonas Johansson. I think it's outrageous the NHL is already scheduling back-to-backs. It seems super unnecessary. They've had months off. It's let's just a month off. Let's just relax here. But evidently, they aren't doing that. So Jonas Korpisalo gets to start for the Boston Bruins. They'll give Jeremy Swayman the night off entirely. Charlie McAvoy is a game time decision, but is expected to play. The Blue Jackets will go with Elvis Merzlikins. Kirill Marchenko will play. Zach Werenski will play. Leonis Allmark gets to start for the Ottawa Senators. Tim Stutzla's day-to-day with an illness. He's a game-time decision. Missed a couple practices in a row with an illness, so unclear if he plays. Brady Tkachuk, Jake Sanderson are expected to play. The Red Wings are projected to go with John Gibson. Dylan Larkin will play. Florida will go with Sergei Bobrovsky. All of their players from the Olympics are going to be in the lineup. Only guy that's really out still for them that's noteworthy is Seth Jones. Joseph Woll projected to get the start in the second half of back-to-back for the Maple Leafs. The Montreal Canadiens would go with Sam Montembeault. It'll be Ilya Sorokin for the Islanders. Bo Horvat will play. The Canadiens, everybody's healthy. They're getting Newhook and some players back in this one. Pittsburgh Penguins will be without Sidney Crosby for the next month or so. Arthur Seeloffs gets to start tonight for the Penguins, expecting to see Jacob Markstrom on the second half of a back-to-back for the New Jersey Devils. The Predators, two of their Finnish Olympians, Jussi Saros and Eric Haula, are both game-time decisions tonight, so whether that means Justice Noonan gets to start or it will be Jussi Saros, I have no idea. Wouldn't be shocked if it's a Noonan. He's played well. Saros obviously had a heavy workload during the Olympics as well, so might be a good night to give him an extra day off. Spencer Knight gets to start for the Chicago Blackhawks, who are back to full health for the most part. Joel Hofer gets to start for the St. Louis Blues, projecting to see Philip Grubauer in the second half of a back-to-back for the Kraken. Capo Caco didn't play last night. That was a bit of a surprise for us. Robert Thomas will be out for the St. Louis Blues this evening. The Rangers getting healthy at the wrong time because they don't really care anymore. But Igor Shesterkin back between the pipes tonight for the Rangers. Adam Fox will also return. The difference between when Igor Shesterkin starts or Adam Fox is in the lineup and then when they're missing those guys, it's insane how bad the Rangers are without those two. With them, they're actually not too bad. Sam Harrison projected to get the start of the second half of a back-to-back for the Flyers. Nathan McKinnon is expected to play for the Colorado Avalanche tonight after missing yesterday's game. Didn't matter. They still won. Mackenzie Blackwood likely to start in the second half of back-to-back for them. Philip Gustafson gets to start for the Wild, who are expected to have all of their Olympians in the lineup. You've got Yaroslav Askarov getting the start for the San Jose Sharks. I can't wait to watch Macklin Celebrini play hockey, not for Team Canada tonight. That's going to be super fun. They are also going to have Kiefer Sherwood making his Sharks debut on that top line. With Celebrini, we'll get to that one in a little bit. Dustin Wolf likely to start for the Calgary Flames. The last game of the night, you've got Zach's Edmonton Oilers in Los Angeles, projecting to see Darcy Kemper versus Connor Ingram. Neither one of those guys started yesterday. Connor Ingram did finish the game. Zach, what do you make of the Oilers goaltending situation? I might as well give you the floor here for a second because it's always fun.
Yeah, probably in the market for a goaltender. Tristan Jarry situation, not working out very well. Connor Ingram's been fine for the Oilers. He's posted like an .894 save percentage this year, which is the best save percentage any Oilers goalie has had this year. So back to square one here, it seems, for the Oilers.
LOL, only noteworthy guy out for Seth Jones. Feel like might be forgetting a key injury. I think that it's pretty well established that Alexander Barkov wasn't going to play tonight. But yes, Barkov obviously still out. Not expecting to see him back really anytime soon. Although he is trending in the right direction, so we shall see. Okay. Some of these busier slates, I've been kind of handling the matchup breakdowns and then getting Zach's thoughts on the game. So we're going to do that to speed things along today. Carolina hosts the Tampa Bay Lightning. They are minus 142 home favorites in this one. Both very, very good hockey. No surprise there. Both playing extremely well. In terms of the matchups for this one, pretty bad on both sides. Two teams very, very good defensively. You're going to see a lot of Aho versus the Kucherov line. You're going to see a lot of the Stahl line versus the Gensel line this evening. But we saw a lot of it yesterday, Zach, right? Like Hagel technically started the game on that top line. Ended up being Gonzalez has played a lot there. So we're still going to, I think, see a lot of that shuffling. But yeah, matchup-wise, it's pretty bad on both sides. I don't think I have an overwhelming amount of interest in this hockey game. From a DFS standpoint, like just they're both so good defensively. When you take a look at the stacks here, I think like there's an opportunity for any number of these lines to have a night. I just think trying to find out which one that is and kind of paying a premium price here, it makes is just a little tricky. I will say like Braden Point seemingly getting no ownership at $6,300 is interesting. He looked great last night, so like I don't mind maybe like a Point Kucherov mini. I think that's a fine option tonight. But overall, I just don't really have a ton of interest. Brandon Bussy's been unbelievable. I think with Johansson getting the start for the Lightning, it might tip the scales towards the Hurricanes a little bit. But $19,800 for that top line. They still only grade out 19th overall. So they got to generate a lot to, or they don't have to generate a lot to score on Johansson. Obviously, he's not Vasilevsky, but I just don't really think this is a game that's going to draw a ton of my interest. I think I'm probably pretty similar to the field where they're getting to the top line of the Hurricanes a little bit, but then the rest of the game is pretty much unowned. So, it looks like a 3-2 type hockey game. I don't know if anybody from this game will be optimal given that potential score and then obviously the price tags that you have to pay for. Do you have a little bit more interest in this game than I do? Or are you feeling similar?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty similar to you here. The Lightning are 5-2 in their last 7 games going up against the Hurricanes dating back to the start of the 23-24 season. They've outscored Carolina 25-17 in that time, so averaging about 6 goals per game there. I'm not sure if I'm in love with this game by any means. I think Carolina 1, sprinkling a little bit of them would be okay. Maybe a little bit of Tampa 1, but I kind of agree with the ownership here. I don't really see a big need to kind of get to this game here for me.
These two teams met once this year, and it was the complete opposite of what I'm expecting tonight. It was 6-4 for the Lightning. In that game, Petr Kochetkov had an .821 save percentage, and Andrei Vasilevsky had an .818 save percentage. So I don't think those are likely to happen tonight. But when we take a look just really quickly too, like implied totals there for the Hurricanes. So obviously, with Johansson getting the start, you could certainly get to Carolina. I think it's justifiable. That would be the side of the game that I would probably lean to. Neither team very good power play advantages tonight. Both teams great on the PK. Let's move it along now. We've got Boston and the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets, very, very good defensive metrics. Under Bones, they've definitely tightened things up, which is kind of what we expected to happen. The power play has been okay. Really bad PK for the Boston Bruins. So we'll kind of start there because both teams really good on the power play. Tonight, 4th best power play advantage for the Boston Bruins going up against 21st ranked PK. The Blue Jackets have the 2nd ranked power play advantage tonight because the Bruins are terribly undisciplined and have a terrible penalty kill. So kind of an interesting game environment. When we take a look at the matchups, though, not great on the Boston side of things. I think that's probably fine for me. I don't really have an overwhelming interest in getting to Boston given the current lines. Just not a lot going on at 5v5. Sure, the power play matchup is great, but I lean towards the Blue Jackets side of this game for sure. The second line specifically has a really nice matchup tonight. So does the third line. I don't mind getting to this first line either. They've got the basically an average matchup score. We've seen a lot of really good things from Columbus One with Mason Marchment up there with Fantilli and Marchenko. They're not terribly expensive at 17,700. I think I'll get there. They're 6% owned. The second line I mentioned, I just don't know what to make of them, right? Like the matchup is great, but they haven't really done a whole lot. They're super cheap. I think they're a very contrarian punt option just given the matchup score, but I don't have a lot of, I just don't think there's a lot of ceiling there. Not a lot of shot volume, not a lot of finishing ability. So I don't think I'm going to get there a ton. Piquing my interest a little bit with that matchup score, but man, like Boston Boston with Hushdinov, Lindholm, and Pasternak, it just has not turned into anything at 5v5. But I think Pasta, Lindholm, this power play is viable tonight. So if I'm building around either of these teams, it is probably going to be mostly through the power play. So for Boston, it's going to be Lindholm, Pasternak, McAvoy will probably be the line that I target because you're not getting any correlation at 5v5 with Geeky and Zaka. And then obviously on the Columbus side of things, Fantilli, Marchment, Marchenko, and Werenski, they all fully correlate together on that top line and that top power play unit. So it's a bit of a cop-out here to say that it's probably both teams' top lines, both teams' power plays really seem like the viable route to go today. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part here. I mean, both teams have solid power play matchups going into this one. I think one spot that really is kind of intriguing for me is the depth of the Blue Jackets. You mentioned the strong matchup scores for that second and third line. And we can't forget about the heater of all heaters that Charlie Coyle was on heading into the Olympic break as well. He was absolutely on fire. 1.7 goals for per hour in his last 20 games before the break, 3.3 points per hour. He had some really big performances. He's up there on that top power play unit as well. If he can find a way to chip in some offense with the man advantage and find a 5-on-5 goal he can be involved in as well with a guy like Sillinger or even Mathieu Olivier, I like those spots there for sure. I'll probably sprinkle a little bit on this second line as well. I liked Ken Johnson and Monahan heading into the break here. That's kind of where I look at as a bit of a get different spot here because we are seeing some ownership coming in on both of these top lines.
Yeah, I agree with you on Charlie Coyle. I think that's a nice show. It's always hard to find a really good, cheap center. Not that he's super cheap, but $4,400. 2%. I don't mind that show on Charlie Coyle. Let's move on to Ottawa and Detroit. As I mentioned, Tim Stützle is a game time decision this evening. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he plays. Two teams have met twice this year. The Red Wings have won both contests 4-3, and I think it was 5-3. And the scoring was pretty spread out in those games. The Red Wings I'm really intrigued to see how the Red Wings come out of the break. Heading into it, they were really trending the wrong direction in terms of their 5v5 offense, but been a very good defensive team this season, and the power play has been a calling card for them. The Senators also playing some of their best hockey right now, top 10 5v5 offense and defense. The penalty kill has been really good. In terms of the matchups for this one, really bleak on the Detroit Red Wings side of things, given the current lines for the Senators. The underlying metrics is very, very strong. So I do have concerns that the Red Wings will be able to generate much at 5v5 tonight if Stützle is in the lineup, just because it was a team that, heading into the break, 5v5 offense just seems, wasn't there. The Senators were pretty tight defensively. So I do think the Red Wings are probably going to struggle a little bit to generate offense at 5v5. This one, the power play, neither team has a massive advantage there. I don't really have a ton of interest in the Senator side of things either. These two games have been high scoring this year. So part of me wants to get, buy into this game, but I just don't really see the route to do it. I would say that Ottawa 2 is probably your safest bet. They've got the best matchup overall. They've got the best underlying metrics in this game. So, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of chatter about the U.S. Olympic team and Brady Tkachuk and whether or not he was the one that yelled close the northern border, and Ottawa fans basically hating Brady Tkachuk. And I guess one way to get back in their good books is to have a big performance tonight, and whether or not that happens, we shall see. But that line was playing pretty well. If we take kind of all of the real life stuff out of it and focus on the spreadsheets and the DFS element of this game, Brady Tkachuk, Dylan Cousins, and Ridley Gregg seem to be in a pretty good spot tonight. If I'm going to play anybody from this game, it is probably going to be that line. And they're seeing basically no ownership. But I think, when we're talking about the Ottawa Senators, we got to remember how good John Gibson was basically for the last 2-3 months heading into the break. So we shall see. I lean towards this game being a little bit lower scoring than the first two matchups between these two. And I guess, too, one thing we should talk about outside of that kind of 5-minute spurt or 10-minute spurt in that Vegas LA game, and then the Edmonton Anaheim game, which was always going to be fireworks. Very low scoring night last night for the most part. Everybody kind of getting their legs back underneath them. And I think we could see a little bit something similar tonight. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, last night those early games were pretty low scoring through the early stages of them. It felt like in all of the games really kind of opened up a little bit more as the game went on. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some rust here on the boots of the Senators and the Red Wings here. I do like the shout on Ottawa too tonight. I think I agree with you in that would probably be my preferred route to go. I don't mind the idea of getting to some Detroit one and maybe a little bit of Alex DeBrincat as well. That top line for the Red Wings and DeBrincat were red hot heading into the Olympic break. DeBrincat drawing a bit of ownership here, 4.3%, 4.7 on Patty Kane. So some interest coming that way for sure. But I don't really have a ton of interest in this game as a whole.
I think, you talk about the Olympics that Dylan Larkin had. Lucas Raymond, probably the best player for Sweden throughout the tournament, too. I think getting them at 6,400 and 5,600 is a nice discount tonight. And, at no ownership, there's certainly a line that can go off if you're looking for a contrarian option. The matchup is certainly far from ideal, but I think we've seen the Red Wings score 9 goals in 2 games against the Sens. So maybe they got their number a little bit, and maybe Larkin, Raymond stay hot after a really strong Olympic performance from both of them. The Panthers will host the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. They're minus 153 home favorites. 3.5 implied total is the tied for the highest on the slate with the Nashville Predators. The Leafs looking pretty well out of sorts yesterday, and it's hard to say how much it was the Leafs looking out of sorts or the Tampa Bay Lightning just that much better of a hockey team. I think that's probably a little bit more true. The Panthers are a team that I think both of us have had a bit of a difficult time figuring out this season. And obviously a lot of injuries, a lot of things going on with them. Matthew Tkachuk said today, it's time to put the pedal to the floor. They got to have a strong finish here. They got to win some hockey games down the stretch. And I do look for this Florida Panthers team as they get healthier to be a team to watch out for as we head down the stretch run here. And, getting the Leafs in the second half of a back-to-back is a nice setup for them. The lines are pretty interesting too. It's a little bit similar to what we saw heading into the break where, Evan Rodriguez is basically their Walmart version of Alexander Barkov. They feel like he fits the same profile, and at $3,300 he provides some really nice salary relief. That first line, not seeing as much ownership as I thought they would, given that they're just 15,900. I think this is a really interesting spot for them. Their matchup is fantastic. They're going to see a lot of that Matthews line. Obviously, Matthews looks great in the Olympics in terms of the defensive play, but with Domi and McMahon, they have struggled defensively this season. So I do think that's a matchup that Florida 1 can certainly take advantage of. Florida 3 grades out well too. Lundell, playing just a ton of ice time at 4,400 is a nice value center tonight. Florida 2 with Bennett, Chuck, I think you could probably get there, but they're seeing so much more ownership than the top line, and I lean towards that top line a little bit more. Do you have any different opinions? Are you on that Tkachuk Bennett duo a little bit more? I guess the reason I think they're probably seeing a little bit more ownership is this is one of the best power play advantages on the night, and you get a little bit more power play correlation there than you do with that second line. You're going to have Bennett up there with Tkachuk, and you got Reinhart from one line and Marchand from another. So a little bit more power play correlation. I guess their ceiling could be a little bit higher tonight, but I feel much better about Florida 1 at 5v5. And I think when we're playing the ownership game, I think it is an interesting pivot point here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think for me, I'm comfortable getting to the field on the Panthers as a whole here. I think for me though, a little bit more interest in that top line than I do that second line. The 5-on-5 metrics a little bit better there. The matchup is kind of what pushes me a little bit more towards that top line, as well as the fact that the floors from Verhaeghe, Rodriguez, and Reinhart heading into the break were really good. I mean, you're getting great volume you were getting great volume, that is, from Evan Rodriguez at $3,300, 8.7 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. I like the look of this top line for sure. I'm okay sprinkling in on this second line a bit. Mackie Samoskevich is drawing quite a bit of ownership there at 10.7%. I think I'm comfortable at getting to, 7%, 10% on guys like Bennett and Tkachuk there. But I think Samoskevich is probably the guy that I'd be coming in a little bit lower owned. That being said, another guy who had really good volume going into the break with 10.6 shots on goal per hour. So I got some interest here in Florida for sure. The third line, a little bit of interest there too. I think the thing for me is how healthy is Marchand right now? Missed some time during the Four Nations and the Four Nations, look at me, the Olympics, and wasn't overly effective when he was out there. So I don't mind the idea of sprinkling a little bit on that third line too. In terms of the Leafs, this feels like a bit of a tough spot for them. I think it is worth mentioning too that the Panthers were not playing great hockey heading into the Olympic break either. Bailed out a little bit by their goaltending, but I think this is a bit of a tough spot for both teams, to be totally honest with you. I think I'm okay sprinkling a little bit on Toronto here too, but probably won't go too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like Matthews and Nylander and company, like they have been playing well. They were putting up points prior to the break, and continued a little too late last night, but they did get back on the score sheet last night. I do just think this is a tough spot coming out of the break here, back to back against a Florida team that needs some W's. I just don't see myself getting to a lot of Toronto this evening, and the field isn't either, right? Like the top line projected for under 1%, the top line projected for under 2%, the second line projected for under 1%. So I'm probably in agreement with the field on this one. And then, I just lean a little bit more towards Florida 1 here. And this is a funny one from Tom. Not confident Mackachuk's going to be 100% here after celebrating yesterday. Yeah, the party has been raging for Mackachuk. So if that's any reason to get to or get off of some of that Florida 2 chalk and get towards Florida 1. I think that makes some sense. And I think a guy like Sam Reinhart, very disappointing Olympic showing, didn't get a lot of ice time. He's probably eager to get back to Florida and start getting back to the game he plays, which is 20 minutes a night and getting on the score sheet with regularity. Let's get to Montreal and the Islanders now. The Canadiens have one of the highest implied totals on the night, despite going up against Ilya Sorokin, who has played just spectacularly this year. Both teams not great now, very well defensively. The Canadiens have been very good 5v5 offense. Both teams on the power play have been anemic so far this season. I guess that's not really fair to say because Montreal's converted at 24%, but they're just not generating a lot of chances, at least lately. They have the worst or one of the worst power play advantages on the night. The Islanders is slightly better just because the PK for Montreal is so bad, but I don't really care that much with the Islanders power play. I don't really have a lot of interest in this hockey game. I don't know about you, Zach. Like nobody grades out really all that well outside of the Islanders top line. I mean, Montreal grades out terrible tonight. When you take a look at the matchups, it's okay actually for the top line. Really good on the Islanders side of things. The top line with Kirby Dach, they're just not generating a lot compared to some of the other players that were up there. Alex Texier, Slavkovsky, even Bolduc at times. Like those lines are generating more than this trio has. So with Sorokin getting the start, I'm probably pretty comfortable to stay off of Montreal tonight. They're not really seeing much ownership at all. None of this game really is. But I think that the Islanders top line is kind of interesting. Matchup score is really good. Their underlying metrics, Barzal, Horvat, and Palat. I'm mostly just concerned about Barzal and Horvat in this instance. I think they're okay, right? I mean, they're pretty expensive. But I think they're an okay pivot option with Montembeault getting the start. He's just fine. The power play matchup, obviously, as I mentioned, is okay. Not that it's a potent power play by any stretch, but yeah, long-winded way to say I probably don't have a lot of interest in this game either.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of interest. I think if I was playing Montreal, it'd probably be through Caulfield and Suzuki on the top line. That's really the only group there that has me interested. Slavkovsky, tremendous at the Olympics. Obviously, he had a great showing there for Slovakia. And Kapanen and Demidov were having some success too on that second line. It doesn't necessarily feel like this is a great spot to target them, though. I do have some interest in getting to the Islanders here. You mentioned that power play matchup. It's 8th overall on the slate here tonight, but the Canadiens' penalty kill was absolutely atrocious. In their 10 games before the Olympic break, they had a 739 save percentage on the penalty kill. So some really rough stuff going on there. They're giving up a lot of goals, a lot of high quality looks. Obviously, the Islanders' power play isn't anything really to write home about, but I don't mind the idea of getting to some of this Horvat Barzal mini stack on this top line, and then kind of going from there. That's pretty much the limit of my interest here in this game, though. I will be getting to some of these Islanders guys, specifically around that top power play unit.
Yeah, get Schaefer in the mix a little bit too. I think it's just obviously the price is expensive, and I think it's just a contrarian play. I think it's an okay spot for sure. Okay, Pittsburgh and New Jersey. The Penguins still minus 155 home favorites. Obviously, you've got the Devils in the second half of back-to-back, but still minus 155 at home without Sidney Crosby. Penguins were playing fantastic hockey at 5v5 heading into the break. Power play still needs a little bit of work, but we're expecting to see Avery Hayes, who had a really big game before the break, to be on the top line with Rickard Rakell and Brian Rust. He is going to draw a healthy chunk of ownership tonight as well. I think he's like one of the highest owned forwards on the slate. Yeah, 3K, third highest owned forward on the slate, which is pretty interesting. The one thing that I have major concerns about, so this is Raquel and Rust's numbers without Sidney Crosby over the last couple of years. Really bad. Really bad stuff. So I do have some concerns about that line getting things going tonight. If Avery Hayes, obviously, I think he had like 6 shots and 8 shot attempts. It's 2 goals or something like that in his debut there. But I don't really trust that line to get a lot going here, just given the struggles they've had previously without Sidney Crosby. But the second and third lines, man, really good underlying metrics, right? Like fantastic underlying metrics. I think they both represent pretty good value options. The problem is their matchups for both of them are not very good. So I don't know how much I'm really going to get to this spot. I think it's tough. There is a decent chunk of ownership coming in that top line. I just think that without Crosby, they're going to struggle a little bit. Obviously, the price tag at 15,000 flat is obviously the reason that a lot of people are comfortable getting there. Again, the matchup is the best basically from the Pittsburgh Penguins side of things. Hayes is cheap and obviously looks good in that first game, but I'm not putting too much stock into one hockey game. The Jack Hughes line is the line that's expected to face a lot of the Rickard Raquel line, which, as we showed you here, have just disastrous defensive metrics without Crosby. I don't imagine they're going to be that bad forever, but they're still noteworthy. I thought the Devils looked pretty good last night despite losing. I don't mind getting back to Jack Hughes tonight, $8,100. Connor Brown still in that top power play unit, $3,400. Jesper Bratt very cheap at $5,200. They grade on the top 10 with literally no ownership at all. I think that's an interesting line to target tonight. Obviously, though, power play on both sides of this puck, just awful matchups tonight. So another game where I don't have a ton of interest. I think that, ownership basically at 0 for Jack Hughes. If that matchup comes out like the way we think it's going to, if it plays out the way this looks, I mean, they should have a nice night. And it's not like Seelops has been a brick wall by any stretch. So I don't mind the Devils tonight. I think obviously a lot of issues going on for Pittsburgh without Crosby. It's probably pretty upsetting that he got hurt during the Olympics, and see how they come out. But yeah, Pittsburgh middle 6 with the second and third line, I think represent good value options tonight. That's probably the extent of it on that side for me.
Yeah, I've actually got a decent amount of interest in this game. I'm going to tap the sign here because if Jacob Markstrom goes for the New Jersey Devils, everybody knows the rule here at this point in time. I think for me, I'm going to spread out some ownership here on the Penguins. I'm not going to go crazy or anything like that, but 5% in my 20 max for the top line, second line, and third line feels totally fine for me. I think this is a Penguins team that is probably better than people are giving them credit for. Granted, with Sidney Crosby in the lineup, 7-1-2 heading into the Olympic break. They were scoring 4.6 goals per hour at 5-on-5. So they were absolutely red hot. And it was coming from all up and down the lineup. I mean, this second line and this third line, as we can see in their line stats, absolutely on fire heading into the break here. So I've got some interest in getting to these guys here tonight. I don't feel as great about that top line, but I mean, really when you look at the ownership and you say, okay, Raquel and Rust are at 6 and 4% respectively. So, they're in one lineup with Avery Hayes, and then you find Hayes another spot in another lineup at 3K as a potential value option. I'm fine going that route here tonight. In terms of the Devils, I like getting to the second line again. Talked about it a bit last night. Obviously a disappointing showing there, but if they can take advantage of that matchup going up against Pittsburgh 1, I could certainly see a route where Hughes and Bratt and Brown are able to find a way onto the score sheet. And the nice thing too is that, all the first 6 games that we've covered up until this one, all are 7 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Mountain time start. So we'll know as we're kind of building in that final half hour if it is going to be Markstrom or not.
I mean, it should be, right? Alan went yesterday. Yeah, it should be. I'd be shocked if it isn't, but yeah, I tapped the sign. Okay, let's get to my favorite play of the night. Nashville tied for the highest implied total at 3.5, minus 166 home favorites. Now, this is interesting because they graded us the number 1 line overall, and they aren't seeing much ownership. 3.9% as a whole. They're also very cheap. Evangelista, 5K. 5,700 for O'Reilly, 5,700 for Stamkos. I mean, this feels like a chart play tonight. I won't be surprised if they pick up steam and end up being a little bit higher owned. Still one of the highest implied totals of the night. So I could see people getting there for sure. Obviously, though, there is a little bit of appeal on the second line. Halla looks good in the Olympics. Philip Forsberg, $7,500. Like, I think people will probably split their ownership between Nashville 1 and 2, where to me, I think it's pretty easily Nashville 1. Best matchup on the night. 100% matchup score. Not that Nashville 2's isn't any good. But Nashville 1, man, the underlying metrics for this line have been phenomenal this year. So I absolutely adore this line tonight. I hope they end up coming in at about 4% owned. This is a fantastic spot for them. Now, I feel, and Zach, you probably have a better memory than I do. I feel like we were in a nearly identical spot with this team not that long ago when they hosted the Chicago Blackhawks in the middle of January. And I think we probably came on here and said something very, very, very similar because it was Drew Commesso that got the start for the Chicago Blackhawks. And if you recall correctly, 36 save shutout for Drew Commesso that night. It was tough. I don't care. I'm going back to the well. How about you?
Yeah, I'm fine tapping back into the well here for sure. I mean, this seems like a great charts play here with this top line for the Predators. Listen, we were on these guys heading into the break. They were playing some really solid hockey. Ryan O'Reilly and Stamkos putting up solid points. Evangelista, the setup man on that line in a really big way. 2.4 assists per hour in his last 20 games heading into the break. I like this spot here quite a bit for the Predators. There's no doubt about it. I am ready to get hurt again, as they would say. Don't know if I'll be getting to this Blackhawk side of things here. Got to imagine a guy like Bedard's probably feeling pretty hungry right now, coming off of being snubbed off of that Olympic roster and then looking at things and seeing Canada's inability to score there in that gold medal game. So I imagine he's going to be hungry. Just don't know if this is the greatest spot here to really get after the Chicago Blackhawks. They're going to be going up that top line 50% of their ice time going up against Nashville 1. So if things go the way that they're kind of looking like they could be tonight, this could be a great spot here for Nashville 1 as a total contrarian DFS charts play.
Yeah, Chicago 1, really brutal matchup going up against an O'Reilly line all night. They have been fantastic defensively. I think you could probably tap into maybe the second line here of the Blackhawks with Frankie Nazar and Tyler Bertuzzi matchup. There is pretty good. If you're looking for kind of like a $9,000 mini stack, I don't mind getting there. Sam Renzel on the blue line, I think is going to be popular tonight, but also in a nice spot. Not that their power play is any good or in a good spot. Power play for Nashville is pretty good. Just one more Nashville player to talk about on the blue line. Roman Josi grades out with the best value projection of all defensemen tonight. So lots to like about Nashville 1, this Nashville power play, Roman Josi. But yeah, I don't have a ton of interest in Nashville or in Chicago, excuse me. I think most of it would come through like kind of a Frankie Nazar, Tyler Bertuzzi mini stack. If Howlett plays, I don't mind Nashville 2. I just think I'll be a lot heavier on Nashville 1. It just feels like the better of the two spots. Let's move on now to St. Louis and Seattle. Both teams terrible on the PK, but both teams not very good in the power play. Both teams not very good at generating offense at 5v5. Doesn't look like the most exciting hockey game. We got some injuries, obviously, on the Blues with no Robert Thomas. Everybody kind of grades out okay in this game. Like, nobody stands out as unreal. The neighbors, Buchnevich, Kyrou line grades out well. They're actually seeing a healthy amount of ownership. The top line of the Seattle Kraken, who we both like a lot, grades out pretty well. They're also seeing a decent chunk of ownership. They're just both so cheap. And I could see, with the minutes that they play, why you would want to get there. I think a guy like Dalibor Dvorsky had a tremendous Olympics. I think he's interesting. I think this top line for the Blues at 10,200 is a line that I'm certainly interested in tapping into tonight. As I mentioned, both power plays not good, but both PKs suck. So we'll start with St. Louis because I think St. Louis is super interesting tonight. With the Kraken on the second half of back-to-back, we saw the Stars power play with basically nobody, missing no hints, no Rantanen last night, still find success. You've got Dvorsky on the top unit, but then it's that full second line of the Blues, Buchnevich, Neighbors, and Kyrou correlating on that top power play unit. So I think that line's super interesting tonight. They're going to be in a pretty good spot at 5v5. Then obviously the power play correlation is good. So I could see why you would get to St. Louis 2 tonight. I think they make some sense. St. Louis 1, I think, is also an okay option, like mostly Dvorsky and Snuggerud. Shen just offers like no floor. So I don't mind the Dvorsky Snuggerud mini stack as just a really cheap option. But yeah, St. Louis 2, I think, is the better of the two higher upside plays with that power play correlation. Seattle, kind of the same thing, right? Like, this is just by far their best 5v5 line. Like, nobody's really close. It's the same thing for St. Louis 2. It's best line that they've got. They fully correlate on the top power play unit. It's a power play unit that isn't very good, but draws a more than favorable matchup tonight against a Blues PK that is not very good. Zach, oh, he's back. What are your thoughts on this one? Because it's like a game that when you look at, I was like, man, this doesn't feel that fun. But when you start to dig into it a little bit, and you get the price tags involved, you see why there is ownership coming in here.
Yeah, you can see why there's some ownership for sure. I just don't know if I feel the greatest about it. I mean, it's been the same old story with the Blues all season long. These are two teams that have been playing very low event hockey all year long. I think I'm okay getting to the second line of the Blues a little bit. Buchnevich and Kyrou were solid heading into the break. Obviously, Dylan Holloway coming back, that's going to be a bit of a boost overall, even if he's playing on that third line there. And this top line for the Kraken, again, another one we were kind of targeting heading into the break. They were playing some really good hockey. So I don't mind the idea of getting to some ownership here in this game. 5% St. Louis 2 for me, 5%, maybe 10% on this top line for the Kraken. But to be honest, that's kind of my extent to this game here. Even when you look at all of these, rankings, there's only one line that ranks within the top 15 overall, and it is St. Louis 2. So St. Louis or Seattle 1 rather, not very far behind at 18th overall, but this does have the feel of a lower event game to me.
They met once this season way back in November, so pretty irrelevant, but it was a 4-3 hockey game. So if we see something like that, I could see some of this value coming through. But yeah, I agree. Feels just like on the surface like a lower scoring game for sure, because these both offenses struggle so much. Okay, the New York Rangers will host the Philadelphia Flyers tonight, -133 home favorites, with Shesterkin, back, and Adam Fox back. Heading into the break, man, or just all season, really. Just a terrible showing from this Rangers team. The Flyers, mostly just the same stuff from them, right? They've all season been a very strong defensive team with not a lot of offensive upside. I mean, they've shown some flashes, but last night was kind of a perfect example. Just didn't, they generated a lot, not a lot of quality. Logan Thompson looked good. I think you could see something similar from Igor Shesterkin tonight. Matchup-wise, not a lot to write home about in this hockey game at all. The Rangers' second line has the best matchups, but without Artemi Panarin, there's not really anything to love about the Vincent Trocheck line. So probably not going to get to a ton of the Rangers at 5v5. I think it's, the power play with Adam Fox back. I think you could probably consider it. I just, with Sam Harrison getting the start, like I want to play some New York tonight, but I just don't really feel comfortable in doing so. So I think the one person from this game that I do have a pretty decent amount of interest in, it is Igor Shesterkin. Obviously one of the best goalies in the world. He's just $7,600. We saw a decent amount of volume from Logan Thompson last night. I think Shesterkin's my favorite play from this game. I think he might be my favorite goalie play on the entire slate. It's always scary with Igor Shesterkin, but I think he's my favorite goalie play overall. I don't think I'm going to do a lot of stacking of this hockey game. Miller's advantage had they're not that expensive. They're also not that cheap. They don't have a great matchup. They're going to 32nd. Trocheck, Cooley, Lafreniere. I mean, they're cheap, but I just don't see them generating a ton here against a good Flyers team defensively. So I'm not playing this game much outside of a Shesterkin. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you here. Feels like a bit of a gross one. I mean, the Flyers, their offense has absolutely hit the brakes here. Really slowed down over their last stretch of games. They're still generating a lot of looks on the power play. So, that's a route that you could possibly go there. A bit of a middling penalty kill for the New York Rangers here. That being said, the biggest issue for the Flyers has kind of just been converting, right? They rank 5th overall in their total power play. But boy, 16.1 power play percentage is certainly not great to look at. I think for me, like I'm comfortable playing a little bit of this top line of the Flyers here. Again, another trio that we've seen have some success as of late. This Rangers side of things, I agree with you. Like I want to get there a little bit. I think when I kind of look at it, the route for me is going to be like a Miller, Zibanejad mini stack and or a Trocheck, Lafreniere, mini stack and kind of going that route there. I'm comfortable leaving off Perreault. I'm comfortable leaving off Will Cooley right now with where they're at. The problem is that there's not really a huge floor for these guys, right? So they're going to need to find a way to get on the board offensively. At least they're going up against Sam Harrison, who has been absolutely terrible this season. 22 games played, 32% quality start percentage, -10 goals saved above expected, according to Evolving Hockey. So it's been tough sledding, to say the very least, for Urson.
Yeah, and the two games that these two teams have met this year, 6-3 for the Rangers and 5-4 for the Rangers. They have been high scoring. The problem is the first time you had 3 points, 2 goals, 1 assist from Artemi Panarin. And then the other meeting, you had another 2 goals from Artemi Panarin. He's no longer there, but Mika Zibanejad has found plenty of success against the Flyers this year. 1 goal, 1 assist in one game, a hat trick in the other. So I don't mind getting some Mika. He's played well. $6,600. Adam Fox, $6K. I could see myself playing a little bit of Miller, Zibanejad, Fox tonight. Without getting too carried away. But yeah, just mostly just like I want to target Harrison. But if you take a look here at the raw projections, I mean, Miller at 5,500 and Zibanejad both grade out pretty damn well. And then on the blue line, Adam Fox is one of the better defensemen on the slate. So I do want to try to get there. I just don't feel the most comfortable about it. So you're saying Jam Panarin in, eh? Yeah. I wish. Too bad. Okay, let's move on here to the Colorado Avalanche versus the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, the Avs coming off a win last night against the Mammoth will now head home to host the Minnesota Wild. Both teams expect to be as healthy as they can be coming out of the Olympics. The Avs, even though in the second half of back-to-back, minus 143 home favorites. In terms of the matchups, though, not a lot to write home about either side. I mean, take a look at the Avs, very good defensively. PK has been very good. The Wild are still like the weirdest team in the league to me because like I think they should be unbelievable, but they just are hard to figure out on a night-to-night basis. But yeah, like I think the one thing for me is Philip Gustafson did not look very good in the Olympics. He looked very shaky. He did not look sharp whatsoever. And that makes me want to play the Avs tonight. It's not hard to convince me to play the Avs. They've been so good. Even without Nathan McKinnon last night, beat a very good Utah team. But man, like everything I saw from Philip Gustafson in the Olympics did not inspire any confidence at all. These two teams have met once this year. It was a 5-1 Colorado win. Makar a goal and an assist. Nelson a goal and an assist. McKinnon 2 goals. Landeskog 2 assists. Nichushkin 2 assists. Netchas a goal. Like all the big dogs, 8 in that one. And I think we could see something similar if Gustafson doesn't get right this evening. So the Nelson line has the better of the two matchups. But obviously, when we're talking upside, that McKinnon line is always going to be towards the top of that. So 21,700 for the top line. You've got the second line grading out 11th best at 18,400. Landeskog on the top power play unit. Nelson on the top power play unit. Netchas at 7K. I'm fine with this top 6 of the Avs. I could see myself getting burned here, but not a lot of ownership. Gustafson, I'm just going to take a stab here and say Gustafson looked shaky in the Olympics. It's going to bleed into tonight, and I think the Avs probably win this hockey game and put up some points. The top line for the Wild does grade out 3rd best overall. I just think it's so tough to generate much against the Avs, so I don't really feel like paying up 18,600. I think there's just better price points tonight than the Minnesota Wild. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I got some interest in getting to this game for sure, especially on this Colorado side of things. I mean, listen, the Wild as a whole were great. They were on a tear heading into the Olympic break, 8-1-1 over that stretch of time, winning 85% of their games. They were looking really good, but they were kind of propped up by their offense, right? 3.2 goals per hour at 5-on-5, 16.8 goals per hour on the power play in their 10 games prior to the break. So, the goaltending was kind of an issue for them, right? Even Gustafson, you mentioned him and the struggles he had at the Olympics. In his last 10 starts before that, an .891 save percentage, giving up 3 goals against per game. I like this spot here for the Colorado Avalanche. I'm going to be getting over the field on them in this top 6 as a whole. Obviously, McKinnon, a guy that's pretty easy to get to, even with him being at 13% owned, but no ownership coming in on Lehkonen or Nichushkin to speak of. This second line is also not really seeing a whole lot of interest. So I'm fine taking a bit of a stand here on the Avalanche. This top line grading out 4th best in the charts, 11th best in the charts for that second line. I like the idea of taking a stab here at Columbus and seeing if they can stay hot, or at Colorado rather, and see if they can stay hot offensively and take advantage of, a Wild team that's been giving up a lot defensively. Getting to Minnesota feels a little bit tougher for me. I think if I do, maybe a bit of a cop-out, but it would be through that top line, right? Ryan Hartman was playing some really solid hockey. He's cheap at $49,000 for a center. Kirill Kaprizov, obviously a guy, tons of shot volume, and a great ceiling to match. So I've got some interest in that side as well. I just don't know if I'll get much more than 5% Minnesota in my 20 max tonight.
Yeah, and Minnesota was scorching hot down the stretch. Not really the who's who of defensive teams that they played during that time, like Nashville, Montreal, Edmonton, Calgary, Chicago, Florida, Detroit, Montreal, Toronto, Buffalo is really when they were hot. Like, not a lot of great defensive teams in there. So I think that it might be like they didn't face any Colorado Avalanche type defensive teams during that time. So I think that they're going to have a little bit of trouble tonight. It would be my guess. But yeah, like, this should be a really good hockey team. Like, when you look at them on paper, every time I run through the numbers, I'm like, they're not that great. But I don't know. Deep down inside, there's something there. This top line projected for 34% of the ice time tonight. Just massive, massive minutes. Let's get to San Jose and Calgary, probably the chalkiest game of the night. San Jose 3.3 home. 3.3 applied total, minus 123 home favorites. Both teams not very good defensively. Both teams kind of middling in terms of the special teams. Top line for the San Jose Sharks. I mean, I said at the top, I'm excited to watch Macklin Celebrini play hockey. Not that I wasn't before, but after this Olympic performance, I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. Everybody else is too. It's the highest owned line on the slate, and it's not really that close. A lot of it has to do with Kiefer Sherwood being $3,500 on that top line with Celebrini. He's also on that top power play unit. This unit fully correlates together on that top power play unit. It's a power play that grades out with the 7th best advantage of the night. Is they're projected for 3.2 power plays tonight, which is the highest on the slate. Always good news there. Yeah, I mean, the matchup's great, right? They're going to see a lot of the top line, a very heavy amount of the bottom 6 for the Flames, which is the matchup that you want to exploit, is this bottom 6 of the Flames. I think that the Celebrini line, I have concerns. I've voiced them all season. The underlying metrics just haven't been that good, but Macklin Celebrini has this incredible ability to find open space and get shots off in the high danger areas consistently. Now, he's not playing with Nathan McKinnon anymore, or Connor McDavid anymore, but Will Smith and Kiefer Sherwood are going to do a decent job getting him the puck in those dirty areas. So yeah, I love Macklin Celebrini. I'm willing to eat this chalk tonight. I'm totally fine. I think Sherwood is in a really good spot tonight. Tom points out, pretty confident that Macklin's going to be higher owned than McDavid and McKinnon here. I would agree. I think he's going to get some steam here, probably closer to 20% as well. Will Smith was also playing some really good hockey heading into the break. 18,400 full stacking this line is super, super easy for me tonight. Matchup wise for the middle 6 of the Sharks, not as good, so I'll probably stay away. On the Flame side of things, I mean, man, oh man, it is so hard to just pinpoint which one of these lines is going to go off, right? It's been kind of the same thing. If Backlund was with Coleman again, I think we'd be like, okay, we'll probably play those two together. But they've really kind of spread out all 3 lines, and they've all had, okay success, but nothing crazy. The matchups are great, though. I could see the Flames finding a way to being a great play tonight. I just don't know which line it's going to be. I truly don't. So I'm hoping you can shed a little bit of light on it for me on who you're targeting from the Calgary Flames tonight. Are you kind of in the same boat as I am?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, man. Like, it feels a little bit tough when you look at it, right? Because you look at the matchups and you say, okay, well, Calgary 1 and Calgary 3 look like they're in good spots based off of that. But then they have the worst line stats, or the second and third worst line stats, or second and third best rather, on the Calgary Flames team. Then you say, okay, well, Calgary 2 is the one that has the best line stats, but they've also got the worst matchup within for the Calgary Flames. So it's kind of a tough spot for sure, right? I think I'm okay getting there on that top line. The floors were solid for Sharon Govich and Coronado heading into the break. And even a guy in Mikael Backlund had some solid shot volume, 8.8 goals per hour of ice time. Again, it's just the issue with the Calgary Flames is can they score, right? Heading into the Olympic break, 1.7 goals per hour in their last 10 games at 5-on-5. So offense was really difficult to come around for them. So I don't really know if I have a ton of interest in playing them that way. And truth be told, Yaroslav Askarov, in 3 games played going up against the Flames so far in his young career, he's got a win, a 204 goals against average, and a 938 save percentage. So he has been absolutely stellar going up against the Calgary Flames. In terms of the San Jose Sharks, I'll absolutely be eating the chalk on this top line here tonight. Macklin Celebrini, 7 games against the Flames so far, 4 goals and 8 points. He's been absolutely tremendous going up against them. So I have no issue playing the Sharks top line here. Obviously, I think some of this ownership is probably some hangover hype from the Olympics, where Celebrini looked absolutely incredible. I do think that this is a fine spot to get back to him, though. No real issue there. But I have to ask, Brock, does this mean that you're all of a sudden becoming a Celebrini truther now? Are you seeing the light in terms of what Macklin's been able to do?
I think that probably turned in like November. I'm a much slower to come around to Connor Bedard's underlying metrics than I were Celebrini's. Now, like the numbers are what the numbers are. The numbers underlying metrics at 5v5 have not been very good. But not a lot to work with. I am definitely seeing the light more. Always thought he was very good. Definitely started coming around earlier. Definitely slower to come around to Connor Bedard. Everybody thinks that Connor Bedard was the answer to the Olympics. I still don't think he was like the skeleton key that was going to push Canada over the top. He would have probably played 8 minutes a night if he was on the team anyway, and it wouldn't have mattered one bit. So everybody's like, we should have brought Connor Bedard. I don't think it would have mattered that much, honestly. But yeah, I don't know who to play from the Flames. It's pretty difficult. LA and Edmonton, old foes, basically diametrically opposed in terms of what they do right and what they do wrong. The Kings very good defensively, don't generate a lot of offense, good goaltending. The Oilers very good offensively, not so great defensively, fantastic power play, can't get a stop. Basically a coin flip in this one, both coming in the second half of back-to-backs. Much worse matchups for the Oilers side of things, pretty good matchups on the Kings side of things. The Kings, are so hard to trust. I think that top line for, with Panarin got off to a pretty good start. That would probably be the route that I go. Like, I'll probably play some LA1 tonight just because I do think that they look pretty solid with Panarin in there, with a Ferrier and Kempe. I think that goals are going to be had in this game because Connor Ingram, I shouldn't say he has been good, pretty good. I just think that there's going to be goals to be scored in this game from the LA Kings, just the way things are going defensively. Darnell Nurse, if he plays like he did last night, there's going to be lots of opportunities for the Kings tonight. I think the top line is kind of the one I'll just go to naturally. It worked last night with the Anaheim Ducks top line. The Oilers top line, super expensive. I think it's a bit of a tougher spot tonight than it was last night, obviously. But with like no ownership really coming in on anybody outside of McDavid, I think it's okay getting to some Zach Hyman here tonight. The second line looked pretty good for the Oilers last night as well. I had a little bit of them, worked out well. Savoy just being, basically minimum price is great. They're super cheap. I don't mind getting there. I think that I probably prefer Edmonton too over anybody in this game just because they're so much cheaper. And I think that they've got just as much upside, maybe not just as much upside as obviously McDavid does, but this feels like a solid line. I mean, the underlying metrics are basically middling. The matchup is not great, but I don't know. Something tells me that there's going to be some goals scored in this game, but you're our resident Oilers guy here. Like, what are your thoughts on this game? You've seen these two teams play each other a shitload. What's going to happen tonight?
Well, if there's one thing that we know from what we've seen in the past, it's that McDavid and Draisaitl are probably going to have good games. They seem to love going up against the LA Kings regular season playoffs. It doesn't seem to matter. I'll be getting to some ownership, my obligatory ownership on the Edmonton Oilers. I always have to do that. I'll be playing that top line, and I do really like the shot on the second line here. Listen, I get that they're 43rd overall on the charts here, but Matt Savoy just had his first 3-point game in the NHL. It felt like his game was starting to kind of come around heading into the Olympic break. Roslovic, on the other hand, was a little bit quiet coming into the break, and then he scores a beauty 13 seconds into the game last night, and this line really didn't slow down much at all last night. So I don't mind getting there, even in a tough matchup for them here tonight. I do agree with you. Like, with the way the Oilers are playing right now, they're basically opened up offensively and defensively. In their last 10 games played, obviously including some before the Olympic break, 3.5 goals for per hour at 5-on-5, 3.2 goals against 4 per hour at 5-on-5. So I have no issue in playing, both sides here. I do like this top line for the Kings. I'll be getting some ownership there. Maybe a little bit on this second line as well. Hey, look, Quentin Byfield scored a goal last night. That was pretty cool to see. He's also the highest owned player, or forward at least, in this game at 10% right now. So definitely going to be some ownership coming in here tonight for me in this game.
Yeah, they've met once this year. Leon Draisaitl had 2 goals. It was a 4-3 Kings win. For the Kings, scoring was pretty spread out. Shocker. Let's get to some defensemen and some goalies. I think that we did a pretty good job in that regard yesterday. Hopefully we can do so again today. Let's bring up the defensemen, sort by value. Colt DePrico grades out really well. I'm not sure what that's all about. But I mentioned Sam Renzel. Even Mike Matheson, I think it's a good spot tonight. Jake Wallman looked okay last night. Alex Carrier, always a good shot block. God. Let's go back up here. not a lot of great cheap defensemen tonight. Like I like Adam Fox. I talked about him. I love Roman Yossi type paying up there. I like Brant Clark a lot. His floor was very good heading into the break, and I expect it to continue tonight against the Oilers. Sam Rinzel, I already mentioned him. Oh, Uvis Belinskis, obviously still on the top power play unit for the Panthers. Probably one of my favorite value options on the blue line. This evening, anybody else really sticking out? Who are our cheap power play one guys? Let's go by. Oops. We've got Belinskis, Rinzel, Drysdale, Klingberg. Oh yeah, Klingberg, obviously a decent option tonight as well. Falk, yeah, he's fine. Anybody sticking out to you that I'm not talking about here?
Well, I think it's interesting when you kind of look at the ownership here, if you can sort by it for a second. Sam Rizal coming in as the highest owned defenseman on the slate at $3,400. You got Justin Falk at $4K. You got Belinskis at $3,900. You got Klingberg at $3,900. Or sorry, Belinskis at $33, Klingberg at $39. You know, that kind of tells me that for a lot of these, you know, Macklin Celebrini lineups that we're seeing, probably going to be a good chunk of these guys that are going to be involved in them. So I think there's some ways to kind of get yourself different. One of them is by paying down. You mentioned a guy, Alexander Carrier. He's been a tremendous value play heading into the Olympic break. You know, Troy Stetcher, minimum price, $2,600. I don't mind getting to him. Yan Kuznetsov, another guy. I think that's, you know, in that sub 3K range you can get to. Joel Edmondson, $2,700. He's going to have a chance to block a lot of shots here tonight as well. And if you want to get different from Rinzel, you can play a little Louis Crevier at $2,900 there. Some good block volume and shot volume from him too. So that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this, you know, for some of these cheaper mid-range guys. And then I think, of course, you can get up there on some ownership with guys like Roman Yossi. He looks great tonight at $7,500. Mackenzie Weegar, Brant Clark, Parayko, even as you mentioned, looks solid too. Tony DeAngelo, I don't mind that shout too. He was really good heading into the break.
Yeah, and Tom points out a good one here. Simon Nemec, most ice time last game, ended the game on power play 1. Whether or not that sticks tonight or not, we shall see. But 22 and a half minutes. I'm so interested to see how his minutes continue to evolve in New Jersey. He played just so much ice time in the Olympics. Looks really good, looked really comfortable, had a great showing in Milan. And I'm interested to see how his game progresses. You know, I mentioned Dvorsky, but you mentioned Slavkovsky. Like, I'm really interested to see how these young guys who really flourished over there, playing bigger roles, end up, you know, coming back to the NHL. So I think Nemec is a good show. I think he's 3K tonight, if I recall correctly. Yeah, 3K flat. So yeah, I like that show on him as well. Let's get to the goalies. I think it's a really tricky night for goalies. I mean, I think the real issue is there's a lot of really tight hockey games tonight. There's not really a lot of huge favorites. There's not really a lot of crazy low totals. So it's hard to really find anybody that looks so much better than the rest. I think that Seelofs makes me nervous with no Sidney Crosby. I think obviously UC Saros, hopefully he gets to start tonight. I think he really found his game, hopefully playing for Finland. He looks really good in the Olympics. I don't mind paying up there, but I mentioned it earlier, man. Like Igor Shesterkin at $7,600 sticks out to me quite a bit. I mentioned I think Colorado wins this hockey game. I don't mind getting to Phil Custacet at $7,100, but he looks so shaky. I think I'd rather just go to Joseph Woll. To be honest with you, I think the Leafs are in a little bit of a safer spot there than Minnesota is. Just if Gustafson, he's going to face a lot of volume. And if he looks as shaky as he did in the Olympics, he's going to get crushed. But obviously, if he looks like he did earlier in the season, then totally different story. But for a pay down spot, I think Wool is a little bit safer, but neither one of them feel great. I don't mind Elvis Merzlikins, $7,400. Some of these, Joel Hofer, Philip Grubauer has as much ownerships coming in that game. If this ends up being as low scoring as we think it could be, I think they're in okay spots tonight. But boy, goalie is tough. Sorokin at $7,400, another guy I'll give a shout out to.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It does feel like a bit of a tougher night for the goaltenders here. I don't mind the idea of some of these more expensive guys, though. And I kind of think that's the way that I'm going to try and build tonight. You know, even when you look at some of the ownership that we're seeing on guys like Sam Montembeault and Mackenzie Blackwood, I think that they're okay to kind of get to here tonight. You know, Artur Silovs at $8,200. I really like the idea of getting to him. Sorokin at $7,400 feels like a really great play. He's doesn't have the greatest projection or anything like that, but his numbers have been tremendous on the season. 46.6 goals saved above expected on the year, according to Evolving Hockey. He's been far and away one of the better goaltenders in the entire NHL here. You could talk me into a little bit of Merzlikins at $7,400 as well, but I think guys like Montembeault, Seelaws, I think Allmark could be okay as well at $8,100. Definitely like the Askarov play as well at 79. That's kind of where I think I'm going to be living tonight.
John Gibson's another guy I think I'll probably click on, especially if Stützle's out, man. He was so good. The Wings haven't lost him this year. $7,300. I think he's a good pay down. For me, it looks like kind of a more pay up night on Blue Line, just to get a little different, and a more of a pay down night between the pipes for me. But yeah, lots of Igor. Let's get tonight's hat trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in tonight's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. Wait till the show ends. Drop it in the comment section. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. If somebody scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we'll raffle it off to anybody who submitted a pick. As always, shout out to our friends at rotogrinders.com for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium, take everything that you learned in today's show and run it through their optimizer. You can get $20 off. That link is in the description of the video on YouTube. Also, there is a 20% off coupon to Action Network Premium. If you want to up your betting game with Action Network, you get 20% off there. I'm going to go first today since nobody got it right yesterday. I'm going with Steven Stamkos.
That's a solid one right there. I like that pick quite a bit. I'm going to go maybe a little bit off the board tonight. Give me Sam Reinhart for the hat trick tonight.
I thought you were going to say Sam Renzel for a second. I'm like, wow. Highest owned defenseman hat trick would be nuts. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss a episode. We go live every day, Monday through Friday, as long as we can. So we'll be back tomorrow. What do we got? A 4-gamer tomorrow, I think? I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to have a lot more fun doing the charts tomorrow than I did yesterday and today. I underestimated how much work it would be to work and manage 2 children while working from home. It has been a bit of a busy day, and 12 games really tested my patience today. Hopefully tomorrow is a little bit simpler with 4 games. What do we got? Let's take a quick look at tomorrow. I always like taking a look ahead here. We got Florida, Buffalo, Washington, Vegas, Utah, Minnesota. That is a nice 4-game slate. Can't wait. See you back here tomorrow. Till then, cheers.
Cheers.